Welcome to the Crossroadz, the show where we dive into the stories of unique and accomplished individuals so that you can unlock your best life.
Dude, thank you for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it, Zeku. It's great to finally be able to talk to you, especially because I remember the first time I saw you was at Freestyle Session 2016, I believe, or 15. It was one of the very first I'd gone to, and you were entering with under Silverback Youngbloods. So you were still pretty young, and so was I. I think we're almost about the same age, and just being able to see someone of a similar age on the floor really representing in that bracket, that was really inspiring to see. And it's awesome to be able to speak to you right now.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And likewise, man, you're doing it. You're young and you're doing it, and it's different fields and it's growth. So it's amazing.
Definitely. Yeah. It's our time right now, especially with all the stuff that's happening. I feel like this is the moment where we can really capitalize. And although it's a lot of bad and a lot of roadblocks, and a lot of people see this as an impediment to being able to make progress, I feel like there are people out there who are still trying to innovate and, continue moving. And I feel like that's what we're trying to do right now, right? Being able to continue these conversations online. And also recently, wanted to congratulate you on placing as a semifinalist in the Break Free Worldwide Championship.
Appreciate it.
I think probably like the highest produced North American online championship for breaking to date at the moment. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. Like, how was the process for you? Your thoughts on the event itself and how it was run, and your own personal experience in the event.
So to me, I mean, I don't know any other company or any other online battle that's happened that was just as big. So I would give them the credit for the biggest online breaking battle to date worldwide, just because they did touch Africa, Asia, Europe. So I would give them a worldwide recognition on the best online battle so far. And I think one thing that they need, Moy specifically needs recognition on, is that this wasn't something that Monster produced. This was something that his own company, Break Free Worldwide, produced. And I think that's big, and he deserves to be congratulated, and of course the rest of the team. But without that man's vision, there wouldn't be a team, So I think everybody needs to, put their egos to the side and kind of give it up to him and the team for producing it without these big dollars from a corporation or anything like that, something that they built from the ground up. It's going to sound biased coming from me because, of course, I have my relationship with Moy, and we're very close. But if there's one thing I could speak on from him, man, he is not a biased person. He keeps it 100% with me, and there's very few people in this scene that I can say I actually listen to, because he's been one of the few people who have actually set in stone a positive pathway for other people to follow, and he's put people on. So there's been times where me and him have gotten into arguments, of course, and it's because of me being young, and it's normal, and honestly, I love that dude. He's put me in my place before. He schooled me. He's put me on game. And coming into the competition, I told him, I was like, man, I don't want to be on the flyer. I don't want anything to do with the event, because we're gonna be like, oh, if you win, oh, it was biased. He's close to Moy. So it was a little tricky at the beginning for me, because I never want people to down talk what he's doing or say anything bad about what he's doing, because he's just trying to help us, put us on and be a part of what he's doing, which I think a lot of people lack in the scene. And last minute, I decided to do it because at the end of the day, man, I'm a battle cat. I live and breathe off of battling. I don't like doing shows. I enjoy them, but it's not something that really doesn't really feed my hunger when it comes to breaking. And I was like, all right, let's do it. I'll join. So whatever I go, I do the prelim round, and I feel good. I stayed training during this whole quarantine. The only difference is that, like you said, people are going through a tough time. If you had a physical business that was non-essential, you most probably closed because you had to for the safety of everybody. But if you're a hustler, you're going to figure it out. You feel me? And we have a breaking facility, one of the many businesses that we have. And I had to switch that into an online school in a matter of 4 days, And for those that know the story, once we shut down at the beginning of March, I took 1 day off completely. I just sat at my house. I sat in the gym, actually. I sat in my gym for a whole day with the team. And we just talked and talked for the whole day. And I said, you know what, let's just kick it. We played Xbox the whole day. And then the next day, I built this entire online program for our students, because we could have easily shut down. Of course, you know, we could have applied for government help or whatever the case may be, but we have kids who need this, you know. We have kids who count on us, that are looking towards taking class, that are looking towards building their breaking future. So we could have easily sat back, but, you know, we put our hoodies on and we made it happen. And we built this online program. Of course, I have my two boys that help me, which is Nels and Doug. They're very essential to the business. But they're not really into the digital part of things. You know, I'm the one that has the logistics. I have to take care of the logistics of everything, you know. And that just comes with the experience that I have that they're starting to gain. You know, they were there side by side with me. And from there, once we built the online program, that took some time. We had to record videos. We had to do all these things. Mind you, this is in between getting ready for Break Free, you know. So this is taking my focus off of competing. And, you know, I could have easily told them, hey, guys, you know, run it, make it happen, and I'm just going to train. But it's unfair to them, you know, because they're also getting ready for the competition. And regardless of me paying them, I think you should lead by example. So I'm there working with them while we're all getting ready for the battle at the same time. And then just, you know, like I have my family, I have grandparents. My brother actually works in the hospital. You know, so there were scary days where he would come home and he'd feel a certain way. You know, my grandparents, my mom, like it was just a lot like going through my mind during this entire time. And man, like right now, this is something that nobody knows, man, but I'm dealing with a lot of injuries. I have a lot of injuries, man. Yeah, I have a lot of injuries right now that I'm going to start taking care of. I think I have like a sprained toe, my left foot. I have like a bruised bone. I have a broken finger. If y'all can see that.
Broken?
Yes.
Bro, it's hella swollen. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've had that since Silverback. If anybody's seen the Silverback footage against Wild Jerry, I have my fingers taped. I broke it like 2 days before. And I'm just going to do the jam.
Holy
I have
shit.
my torn meniscus that I've had for a little bit, and then I have a shoulder pinch. So I have some injuries right now that I haven't been dealing with. I've just been competing, and if you know, my 2019 was insane. I was just traveling and winning and competing, and I couldn't just stop, you know. So now, due to the situation, I'm gonna just start taking care of my injuries and doing this last event, Break Free, like. It did take a toll on my body. It was 3 days, and you know, you have to catch a vibe, and then you have to catch a vibe again the next day, and then you have to catch a vibe again. Like, it's not easy, you know. 3 days of straight breaking, it wasn't easy. My body's built for it. I believe so, but it's just my injuries kind of played a part in it, and it is what it is, man. So those were kind of some of the things that were going through my life and through my mind as I was competing. So to hold it down all the way to the end, to me, I was like, you know what, I did the best that I could. And I'm just glad that it was to Gravity and that he won, you know. He's going to feed his kids, and, you know, he's going to use that money wisely. Like, I know this. So big ups to Gravity and big ups to Break Free for doing what they were doing, for sure.
Right. Shout out to all those people who have been making it happen, regardless of all these times, including you. Like, I think it's pretty crazy because your presence has been known consistently this last year. You have been showing up and taking titles. But if you didn't get on a mic and talk about it, it'd be really hard for people to even know that you were doing all of this other stuff on the side. So that's something I really want to be able to ask you about at this current moment. So even while you're flying around and while you're traveling and battling, and it's such a big part of your life, you're still running multiple businesses. And now I want to be able to ask you, how did that begin? How did that hustling and business building start for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, my hustler mentality, man, and honestly came from when I was younger, when I was about like 8 or 7 years old, something like that. I grew up with a single parent, my mom and my older brother, and you know, we grew up in some tough parts of Miami where, you know, you just kind of fall into the system, you know, like that's what you're supposed to do. We grew up fighting all the time. We grew up in trouble all the time. We grew up around some bad influences, of course, and at that time, to me, you know, at that time when I saw a young dude with money, I was like, damn, like I want to be like that, you know, like, man, he's driving a nice car. Like I wanted that, you know. We didn't have that. My mom broke her back day in and day out to just provide shelter and food for us, you know. So to me, I was like, how do I get us out of this? You know, I was always a visionary. I always wanted to see like the future, you know? So my actual first business, I was like 8 years old, and they bought me this magic kit. I'll never forget. It was this big black box that had a bunch of different like magic tricks that you could do. Like they had one with like a cup, and you like made a coin disappear, and it was just like a little like magic kit box. And I would go to the cafeteria at the corner of our block and tell the drunk dudes there that if I could trick them, they had to give me $1. They would give me $1, and so it was funny because sometimes they knew the trick that I did, and they would expose me, and then they would still give me $1. So that was like my first ever like little business. Yeah, that was like my first ever little business, and I would make, you know, like 5, 6, 7, sometimes $10. Sometimes they tipped me, they gave me some money, but that was like my first ever business. And I remember thinking to myself like, yo, I could make my own money. I remember that. And then from there, I remember like selling candy at school. Man, I used to write up comics, dude. I used to write up like little stories.
I did too. That's awesome.
I used to write up little stories, bro. I used to write up little stories and sell them at my school, bro. People would really freaking buy them. Like, wild, bro, wild. People would really buy them. And then I end up finding Breakin at like 12, 13 years old. And at 12, 13 years old, like, again, we were still struggling. There was no difference. We were probably just living in a better, my mom moved us out of the neighborhood that we were living in because me and my brother were getting involved in a lot of dumb things. And she moved us into a better neighborhood. And man, salute to my mom. I love her to death. That's my backbone, my MVP. Like, you know, she could have really just let us fall into the system. And, you know, she made an effort to move us out of that neighborhood and put us in a better neighborhood. And I remember for my middle school, I went to like a preppy middle school. And I was like the only kid there that had an attitude. My shorts were past my knees. I was wearing Jordans. These kids were wearing like Sperry's, and like it was just such a different environment. Yeah, so I find Breakin when I get to that school. And I remember that first day in school, I get into a fight. My first day at that school, very first day, I get into a fight, 6th grade. And my mom tells my crew leader, which is D, he's the leader of Future Force crew, and I wanted to be in the crew. And he basically told me like, if you get into another fight, you can't break no more. Like I said, you can't come to practice and like that. And I was just like shocked. I was like, yeah, all right, I'm not going to fight no more. So I start getting heavily involved in my breaking. And I just started evolving in my breaking. And of course, it got to a point where I was like, all right, well, how long am I going to do this for until I can start making some money with it, you know? Because I played sports growing up, but I definitely needed to find a way to provide for my family. That was just always my mentality. And I end up street performing at like 14 years old, something like that. I trained for like 2 years full out, and at like 14 years old, I start to street perform. And I started street performing with these two guys, Hoven and Rocket. They were the first two people I started street performing with. And we had like this little purple box, and we would take a bus to the beach and dance in the sun, like in the sun. I mean, right next to where the beach was, on this like little pavement spot that they had. And we just break there, man. We'd make like $8, bro. Make $8. And then one day, I remember we made $80. We made $80. And that was like a breakthrough for us, you know? These guys were believing in me. Mind you, I was 14. They were like 19, 20-something years old. And they believed in what I was telling them, that we could make money doing this. And we made like $80. And that to me was like, that's it. This is it. Man, we're just going to fast forward to me being like 16, 17 years old. Man, we're making like $1,000 a night, bro. We had full-blown team. Everybody had to be dressed a certain way. Everybody had certain lines that they had to say within the street show. Everybody had a role. So I could say that was like the first time that I actually ran something like it felt like a business. You know, we didn't have an LLC or nothing like that, but it was a full business. People got paid at the end of the night. Like, it was people's jobs. We were counting on this money, including myself, you know? And that's how I was able to start traveling, because I started to grab all that money and put it into travels. Man. And sometimes it wouldn't be enough to get a hotel. I wasn't even old enough to get a hotel. So if the promoter couldn't get me a hotel, man, I used to just go to the jam, finish up the jam, straight from the jam, go to the airport, go to sleep, wake up, and take that next flight. So that's kind of like where that hustle mentality came from. And then now, of course, you know, I end up getting signed by Monster. And You know, I could have been a dumb 18-year-old. I got signed at 18. Mind you, I come from no money. I come from literally no freaking money, dude. Like, people tend to forget that because of how I live now. And I still don't have a crazy amount of money. I'm just a little bit smarter with it. But I could have been dumb at 18 years old, man, and grabbed that check and started to just buy dumb things, you know. I put it right into a lucrative business, you know. I put it to build a foundation for the generations after me, which was Surge in Miami. And then I brought my team on, you know, into something that's actually a professionalized business, a legit business. And yeah, man, from there, every other business just kind of started to come up on his own, you know. We opened up an MMA gym. We have the Breakin Business podcast. We have our Zeku Latin tour, you know, that we have our T-shirts tied into that. We have our home gyms, the multi-size gyms. So that all comes from when I was that 8-year-old little kid, you know, where I was like, I can make my own money. I'm going to figure this out. And it's not until now that I look back and go, damn, like, that really did inspire me to be who I am today, you know? So it's crazy. I'm giving you like all the information that I haven't give to nobody. So I'm giving you all the info.
I hella appreciate that, man. This is gold. You basically just told a protagonist's adventure at the moment, and it was really great to hear that. Wild part is that the fact that you really did come from nothing. I remember you did impart in another interview that your mom literally swam to freedom.
Yeah.
To get here, and coming from nothing and growing up around people who probably weren't the best influences, you could have easily, at multiple points in this journey, gone down the wrong path. But thanks to maybe, I don't know, the will of God or the people around you, you have made it this far and you continue to grow. And so I was just curious, like, what do you think were some of the most important lessons imparted on you from your mentors that helped you to make these right decisions, that helped you, instead of going and blowing your money on something foolish, putting your money into yourself and your businesses, and instead of continuing to fight, putting your efforts into something that you feel like could give you a long-term investment forward? Who were those people and what did they teach you?
Yeah. So my mentors that I had, I've had a couple of mentors. Of course, my brother, you know, he was my older brother. He's 5 years older than me, so I always looked up to him, you know, and he was always a great example for me, My brother, I would say D from Future Force Crew, Fiend from Future Force Crew. That was actually my first ever Breakin teacher. I would say Moy is definitely another one of my like really big mentors. And I have Dre from Future Force Crew. That was another big mentor of mine. And there was a couple other people that, you know, influenced a lot of the things that I did. But these are the ones that I could think off the top of my mind right now. And I had my best friend, Fusion. He's from Future Force. Like, we started breaking together the same day, and we were like the yin and yang. You know, we would keep each other really, really balanced. He's like a really good kid. You know, really good kid, smart, and man, like my best friend to this day since we were like, I don't know, like 5 years old or something like that. And you know, I think the biggest factor that played into me getting to where I'm at today is they advised me, but they just believed in me, like big time. They believed in me, and anything that I said, they believed it. They were willing to push through with me. They were willing to help me in any way that they could, even sometimes sacrificing their own things, their own time. And I'm very big on like, if you're gonna join me on this and you're gonna believe in me, I'm gonna bust my ass to make sure that this works and it benefits you. I'm always if it benefits me last, it's okay. I just want to make sure that everybody around me has benefited from it already. You get me? And put people on. But of course, that was difficult, especially me always hanging around like grown-ups. You know, they have kids and they have families, and it's a little bit harder when you're building something. There's no money. So if anybody that's watching this thinks that, you know, people just make money out because they opened up a business, dude, it's way harder to be an entrepreneur than it is to be an employee. You know, like way, way harder. The only thing that we have is freedom. That's all we have. We get to do whatever we want at whatever time, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and that could actually be detrimental in a lot of ways.
Yeah, man. Yeah, if you don't have balance, if you don't have structure, man, it can hit the ground real easy, especially if you're young, man. Luckily, like I said, they just believed in me and they advised me. they would just tell me like, hey, you know, this is probably not a good idea, or maybe you should try this or you should try that. But if you want to do this, let's do it and we'll do it together. And I think that was extremely important, extremely important. I would have to say that D from Future Force, man, like he did a lot for me, man. Like I remember I'm from Miami and I used to go to Orlando to compete. And the Orlando scene, man, for a very long time had a lot of dislike towards me because I was very vocal and I was very passionate, and I didn't let people say whatever they wanted to me because I was a kid. Or mind you just heard my backstory. You get me? So in me coming into the Breakin community, I would tell D, like, what's wrong with these guys? Like, this is not normal where I come from, you know? Like, I'm just here to dance and you know, like, I'm not here to, like, play, you know? And, dude, he would drive me. I had no money, bro. He would drive me to Orlando, like, every weekend to compete, man. Like, every weekend. I would get into heated cypher battles, bro. Mind you, I'm, like, 14 against, like, these grown men. And, bro, he'd stand right there with me, like, and everybody loved D. Everybody loved D. But just because he had my back, man, it just turned into, like, this, bro. It just flipped 180 where it was, like, me and D versus the world. Like, it was so definitely, man, he did so much for me, man. He bought me my first pair of Breakin shoes ever. I remember my shoes had holes in them. I couldn't buy new shoes in the bottom. They had holes that you could see my socks, dude. He bought me my first pair of Breakin shoes. And, man, he just, like, he really mentored me and, like, took me under his wing. And, man, he just did a lot for me. So I had some great mentors, man, whether they just advised me or they took me under their wing. And whichever way that they did help me, it definitely benefited and it definitely created the person that I am today, you know, even up to the point with Moy now, you know. Before I make a lot of my decisions, I call Moy and I ask him, like, hey, man, what do you think of this? You know, what would you do? What do you think is best? And thankfully, man, he's super open with me and he puts me on game. He definitely puts me on game. So
definitely. Yeah. I do agree that, and I've felt the same way about that idea of blind support, right? Like people who aren't trying to necessarily steer you in what they believe is correct, but at least give you their thoughts and still have your back, right? And I feel like that's very empowering. And also something really interesting that I remember hearing about is how you ended up kind of gaining Moy as a mentor. I kind of want you to walk through that story for us real quick and just like tell us about that, because I think that's something really important for breakers to hear.
Yeah. So if you followed me when I was like 16 or like 15, something like that, my thing was like I wanted to win the biggest Breakin battle. And at that time, it was the BC1 for me, you know. Of course, as of now, I think that there's bigger competitions. That's just my opinion. But when I was 15, 16, that was like the biggest one. And I wanted to win it, man. I wanted to win it. And if you heard what I was saying on the Break Free, the online battle they were doing, yeah, I said, you know, I wanted to be the best and I wanted to beat the best. And at that time, man, BC1 had the illest competitors. It wasn't just whoever. Like, whoever was on that bracket at that time, you knew who they were. Right now, you don't even know who they are. You just be random people. So at that time, that's what I wanted to do. And I remember I ended up winning the Cypher here in Florida. And that was big. I was 16 years old. Like, that was, I think, what really jump-started my career. Because I beat some of the best, dude. I beat some big dudes. If you go back to that Cypher battle, Zeku for Lauderdale Cypher, man, I took out some names at 16. And I remember, like, going into that one because I did 2 BC1s prior to that one. And I was so focused. And, you know, I was training up until the day of the competition, like, even in the hotel. And I would lose first, second round. This third one that I ended up doing, I remember telling my whole team, I was like, you know what, man, the week before, I'm just going to move. Like, I'm just going to dance, like, somewhat keep my body warm. But I want to enjoy this, you know. It's here. It's not in Orlando. It's actually here in Fort Lauderdale. It's closer to Miami. I was like, let's go up to Fort Lauderdale, stay in the hotel, have fun, enjoy the beach, enjoy the pool. And I remember just, like, having fun with it. And me having fun with it was what actually led me to winning. Like, I won that one without being so lasered in, you know. Like, I did all my work already before. I felt like, you know what, all the work is done. Let's just enjoy the experience because, you know, I could win, I could lose. I'd rather leave with an experience. So I win that one. And I get into the North American finals. Mind you, again, this was full of heavy hitters. And it's crazy that I think about it. Some of those guys that were there at that time with me were nobodies just like me, and now they're known in the scene. And I remember thinking to myself, like, all these guys are like over 20 years old at least. I was like 16. I was a little kid. Mind you, my mind was always a little bit more mature. And I remember they told me, like, all right, your first battle is going to be against Moy. At this point, I don't know who Moy is at all. I think when they told me who it was, I was in Holland when they told me for IBE. And they were like, oh, Moy is the person you're going to be battling. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know who Moy is. And I was like, whatever. I was like, better for me. That's what I said in my mind. Like, oh, better for me. I don't know who Moy is. So I remember when they announced it, it was like 4 a.m. in Holland. And I just started to work out. And I made a post. And I made a post saying, like, oh, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what name you got. Like, I'm here to win, blah, stuff. And Moy actually messaged me. And he was like, hey, man, I'm just letting you know that I'm doing this, for the fun of it. Best of luck. And I remember, again, at this time, I'm super aggressive. I'm super, like, everybody doesn't like me. And I remember, like, looking at that message, like, oh, he's just trying to get in my mind. I was like, nah, I just kept training. So then we end up getting to the battle. And this is something that a lot of people don't know. I don't know if I said it in that other interview, but we were supposed to do something to each other that battle. So I was supposed to step on a monster can, like go out and step on a monster can. And he was going to sign his monster hat and throw it at me in that battle. Mind you, we didn't do any of that. Like, both of us we just didn't do it for some reason, bro. Like, this is like destiny. We both didn't do that. We ended up battling each other, and he ends up beating me first round. Like, he smoked me. He definitely smoked me. It was a lot of pressure for me to handle at that age. I was young, man. I remember, like, the lights, everything. I was doing interviews every single day for hours. And he's a veteran in the game, dude. That was a usual day for him. And yeah, dude, he beats me first round. And I remember I walk outside and I'm crying, and I'm like, damn, like how do I come this far to just lose first round? And I remember I went home and I sat on it for like 2, 3 days, and I was talking to my boy Fusion, and I was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna hit up Moy. I want to see if he'll train me, because I was impressed, like, he did amazing, and people were like talking about his age and all this stuff, and dude, he was moving like he was 21 years old. Like, dude, he was amazing,
It's timeless. Yeah, it's crazy.
And I remember I hit him up, and I was like, yo, Moy, thank you for the battle. I just wanted to know if there's any way that I can go and train with you, if you would train me. Mind you, I didn't know what the answer was going to be. You feel me? And he replies back, and he's like, man, of course, like, this means so much that you would reach out to me and all this stuff. And I was like, damn, perfect, So then I go and I fly to Houston. Mind you, I'm not sponsored at this moment. Nothing. This is all coming out of my pocket. The flights are like $150, $200. At 16 years old, to be having that money, wasn't easy. I had to really work for that money, street performing and doing other things. And I get to Houston, man. Mind you, I'm going into a place that I don't really know these guys. Like, I don't know them. All I know is Moy for his Breakin, And the entire Houston scene from their end, like the whole break free scene, man, they just welcomed me with open arms. His family, his wife, his kids, like, they were just genuine people. And I remember, like, just getting there that first day and hanging out with him. And I remember thinking, like, damn, this feels right, like, this feels like the circle of people that I would be with, And that influenced my decision into being a part of Monster, because I don't care how much you pay me. I really don't care. My biggest thing is, can I work with you, Because if I can work with you, don't worry about it. I'm going to build my price. That's fine. I'm going to build my value. But I can't do that if I'm working with people I don't even really speak to, I don't get along with. I have to be able to work with you and coexist in the same working space, And I just remember him telling him, I'm like, man, I would love to get sponsored by Monster, bro. I'm like 16, something like that. And he goes, oh, yeah, man, let's just see what happens. Kind of like, you need to get better, And it went from I was flying out like every month or every other month to just train with him, just train. And I remember the conversation went from being like, yo, I want to be sponsored one day. I want to be sponsored one day to like a couple months after me being like, you're going to sponsor me, bro. Like, you're going to sponsor me. I'm going to be a part of Monster. Like, I remember when that switched, you know, and he just kind of like looking at me and like, he's like, all right, just, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, and he was believing in me. He never gave me a direct like, yo, Monster's going to sponsor you. Like, he never gave me that. It was more like, dude, just keep doing what you're doing, you know? And at that time, it's kind of hard because you're like, damn, is it a possibility? Can it happen? Like, his answer was so nonchalant the whole time. Mind you, knowing him now, the whole time in the back of his mind, he was building everything, you know? Like, the program was still fairly new to him. And I remember I'm a part of Silverback Youngbloods like a year after that. And shout out to Steve Graham from Silverback, that he was a very big help and influence in my breaking career. And he would fly. He sponsored 5 guys. He sponsored me, Damien, Master Mace, Weapon X, and Peanut. I believe it was us 5. And he flew us out to Silverback, of course, to represent and be part of the Silverback Youngbloods. And we qualified the first year, and I'm just there hanging out with Moy, of course, just getting to know, like just hanging out with him more. And I remember, I forgot who the Monster team was that year, but like they did amazing. They did really good. I forgot who it was, but they made it pretty far. And Moy won the first one, actually. Moy won the first 3-on-3 Silverback. I forgot who he was with, but he won the first 3-on-3.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And then from there, I was like, man, like, yo, this guy is nasty. Like, he's still winning. Like, it was just, like, mind-blowing to me. And then the next year, I go back. I think it was the next year, the year after that. And I'm going to join again with the Silverback Youngbloods. But the Monster team is missing a member this time. They're like, hey, we don't have a member. We need somebody to jump in. And, you know, there was, of course, like a little bit of a disagreement between me and the Silverback Youngbloods, me switching over to the Monster team. Mind you, it wasn't out of, hey, guys, I'm out, I'm going to go battle with them. It was more of like, I was putting in a lot of work, you know. I was putting in a lot of work, and I didn't feel like they were, you know. And it wasn't that I wasn't feeling like they were. My entire circle around me, you know, I spoke to them. Gravity called me the night before, and he's like, yo, we need an extra member. Mind you, I've been cool with Gravity for years. Yo, we need an extra member. Can you hop on? And the first thing I told him is, I already have a team, bro. I can't. And I remember speaking, because my whole crew flew out with me for that Silverback, and being like, yo, what do I do? You know, I'm such a loyal person. Like, this is a hard decision to make. And they were like, if your team was holding it down as much as you were, then we would understand. They're like, and I remember my best friend, this is what made me make my decision. He goes, bro, even if I was holding it down as much as you were and you got that offer, I would make you go battle with them. He said, because once you get your foot in the door, you're going to bring everybody with you. That's the type of person you are. I remember him telling me that. And I just looked at him and I was like, bro, you're 100% right. Like, you're right. So I ended up going with the Monster team. I go with the Monster team, and we end up making it all the way to semifinals. We took out big heads. Like, we took out some crazy good people. And it was me, Jeremy, and Gravity. And then I remember coming off of the stage after we lost. And I remember I won. I got picked for one of the top power movers right after the 3-on-3. They did a power move cypher, and I got picked. That. And I got picked. I was just so pumped, dude. And I go over to our brand manager, Jose Gonzalez at that time. He's the brand manager for Monster. And I tell him he had somebody else in mind to sponsor. He had somebody else in mind. And I go up to him, and I was like, listen, man, I know that you're looking to sponsor this guy, but he only has like 5 years in him. I have 20, so you let me know who you really want to sponsor. And I just walked away.
Damn.
And then he told more like, I want to work with that kid. So then as soon as I turned 18 in, they blessed me. They offered me a contract, and from there on out, man, we've built such an amazing program. You know, everybody that's on the team now, Moy, Gravity, Jeremy, Kareem, Pocket, Jeffro, Tata, Maka, JK, and Kenny. Like, man, it's just, I don't know. Hopefully I didn't miss nobody, but it's just an amazing team now, dude. They went from being like 4 guys to 10 members, signing B girls, signing the freaking poster child, the Breakin, Ken Swift. Like, it's just crazy. Crazy story.
Stupendous. Yeah, for real. All of you guys have been holding it down. And there's a few things I want to take away from that, because first of all, I feel like everything you just said in this like last 10 minutes could be like a full ass like 2-hour documentary and make a great movie. I honestly believe that. That'd be great. So I really appreciate you sharing this, because
you can
I'm gonna remember that
however you want. It's just, I'm giving you, since, bro, trust me, I believe in what y'all doing, and I've never given anybody like this much info. Like, y'all gonna be like my main source of like information. Like, whenever something happens, I'll sit down and talk with y'all, so then y'all can have that.
Zeku. Definitely. And I'm very humbled to hear that. At the same time, I'm so sad that it's only being recorded now, because okay, anyway, I'm just very happy we're getting this. So thank you for sharing this. And it's just, yeah, of course. And there's someone who's like, as somebody who has you're a very unique individual. And I say this because when someone sees you on that floor, it is very hard for them to imagine that this is the same person who's talking to me right now. Yeah. When your battle presence is very, very different from the person who sits down and wants to talk and is able to share their words and be humble enough to really express all this behind the scenes stuff, right? Like, how many people your age would be willing enough to take a loss and suddenly want to message them, fly out with their own money and go train under this person? So this is something I really wanted to dig into deeper about you. There's that dichotomy, and I feel like this isn't so uncommon for breakers who are completely different personalities when they're on the battlefield versus when they're just living their life and they're doing other things. Because you have this really interesting balance of being humble enough to share your mistakes and to sit down with people and just break bread with them, but at the same time, you're not afraid to kick down doors when you need to. Where do you think that comes from? Do you know anybody else in your circle who is like that? And is this more of like an intuitive thing for you, or is this a personality that you've kind of intently crafted?
Yeah, I feel like I said, as a kid, man, I was always around adults. Like, I never really had a lot of like kid friends. I was always around adults and older people, older personnel. That was my circle of people. Like, even in my school, in my schools, I was cool with the administration. I wasn't even cool with the student body. Like, it was crazy. Like, I was always cool with adults for some reason, you know? And I think that is, man, I don't know. It's just something, that I've built over the years, you know, from life experiences. And to me, like, you know, of course I compete to win, and anything that I do in life is to succeed at it. But I have this saying that I live by, is that the win is in the lesson and the lesson is in the experience, you know? So for me, I've learned so much because I've experienced so much from an early age, man. Like, from a really early age, I was doing things that I see kids my age doing them now. At 20-something years old, I was doing them things, bro. And it's insane to say. At 9 years old, 10 years old, I was doing these things, you know, like, I was doing dumb things. And that gave me a lot of experience and taught me a lot of lessons. So once I was like 15 years old, man, I was already like 21 years old. Like, I already felt so much more mature. Excuse me. And I think, man, it's just the person that I am. It's my mind that I was blessed with. I don't know, man. It's just who I am, you know. And I have awareness of the balance that I need to have between, like what you said. When I'm breaking, you got to understand that I compete to win, you know? I am still a sportsman at the end of the day. If you win or I win, I'm still going to shake your hand. I've never been like the type to like just be nasty about it or something like that. I never blame the actual breaker. I blame the judges. You just went out there to do your job just like I did. It's never the breaker's fault. It's the judges. They're the ones that make the decision. So the breaker you should never get mad at the other opponent, you know, because you lost. They went and did their job just like you did. You feel me? And my presence comes from who I am, you know, everything built inside of me. Mind you, I started breaking to find an outlet, to find a way to express myself. So I'm not a perfect being, you know. I have my struggles, and I have my dark days that I've been through, and you know, I have my happy days, and I have good experiences. That all is expressed through my breaking, you know. So you are going to see that tough 8-year-old that feels like the world is on top of him and he's just trying to get out of it, you know. When I'm dancing, that's where you see that get in your face, raw, really don't care who you are or what you've done. We both bleed red, and we're both fighting for the same thing, and it's to win, you know. And that's how I see it. I don't see this as like a, mind you, I'm not into drugs, I'm not into alcohol, I'm not into any of that thing. So it's not like, oh, I'm just here to party, kick it with y'all, smoke and drink and all that stuff. Like, no, I'm here to win. Like, I train as an athlete, I prepare as an artist. Like, I take this very, very seriously because it saved my life, you know? Man, I'm buying my mama a house off of Breakin. Like, people don't understand that. Like, off of Breakin, I'm buying my mama a house. It's insane. And the only reason why I'm able to do this is because I took it so seriously. Yo, I never had a promoter behind me. Ever. I didn't have nobody vouch for me. The only person, as a matter of fact, all the promoters at that time were down talking me. I remember these things, telling me. I remember, and I'm not going to say their name, but I remember going up to a specific promoter and telling them, like, yo, how can I be a part of Red Bull? How can I be sorry, cut that out. I remember going to a specific promoter and being like, yo, how can I be a part of BC1? He looked at me, laughed at me, and goes, it's going to be a very long time until you get there. That's what he told me. And I remember looking at him like, damn, what a way to, like, encourage somebody, you know? I was a little kid, dude. And I think those are those things that triggered like that. I'm going to kick the door down on everybody. Either you let me in or I'm coming in, you know? And the only person that ever really vouched for me and put me on is Moy. Mind you, I didn't have him until I was about 17 years old, 18 years old in my corner. You feel me? So until then, I just had my team, and we were on the same level of recognition. Nobody really knew who we were. So it's not like they could vouch for me and talk to these companies to put me in their competitions, or these organizers. So it was tougher for me, you know. Like, I really had to fight for the position that I have today. And of course, now that, you know, I'm 21, I feel like I'm 40, but I'm 21. I've established myself. Like, it's crazy to say, I'm a little bit more calm and collect about, you know, who I am. But when I was 17 years old, man, I want to rip everybody's head off. And I think that will always ride with me as I compete, you know, because it does feed me. At the end of the day, after the battle, man, we can go eat ice cream, whatever you want to do. But in the battle, we're all fighting for the one thing, you know. And I'm always going to play to win. I'm always going to play as a true competitor. And inspire at the same time. Even battling Tsuki right now in the Break Free Worldwide Online Battle, I beat him, but man, I went on there and I gave him a message because
you're amazing, you're phenomenal, you're a hard worker, like Moy said. Keep going, you're a champ, little buddy. Keep going, man. I'm super proud of you. Thank you.
That comes from the story I'm telling you now. When that promoter told me, now you got a long way until you get there. So that stuff triggers that stuff, and that's why I use my platform to be a blueprint for the generations coming after me, because I don't want no kid to go through that, man. You know how many people talk smack about me to this day, like right now, like how many people actually dislike me in the breaking scene? And it's because I was just aggressive. I was vocal about my stuff. I was passionate about me. Everybody wants everybody to just be cool, calm, and collect. We didn't all grow up the same way, you know? So if I could use my platform to shine some light on a young, upcoming kid, man, I'm going to do that for sure, 100%.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's a very, very interesting dynamic to navigate, seeing your personality and how that can immediately flip once the battle is over. And also taking those lessons and those experiences that you went through, the negatives of those, being aware enough to say, like, I don't want to reflect that. I don't want to repeat these mistakes and impart that on another generation. I feel like that's a really, really redeeming trait for people who want to become leaders of this scene and people who want to step up to the next level. So a question I have for you is, because your background is very unique in the sense that you had to go through a lot of stuff and not everyone is from there. And I'm sure you're good friends and you've been around a lot of people who have very diverse but unique backgrounds. Yeah. And I'm curious, through your eyes and your observations, what separates like a good breaker or a good hustler from a great one? even the ones who may not have been through the exact same thing as you, but they still have embodied these qualities. What are those, do you think, in your opinion?
One thing before I answer that is I feel like people are a little confused as to like if you come from, let's say, a background like mine, you know, compared to somebody who comes from a family with money already, you got to understand that both those backgrounds still take the same amount of work. And if not, I've never been in that position, of course not, but I do feel it's harder when you have access to it. Because let's say you come from a family with money and they give you a business that's already up and running. It's not easy to live up to the standard of that business if you've never even learned about it, you know? So like people be like, oh, you know, this kid came from money. And it's like, yeah, but he duplicated it. He freaking made it bigger than what it was. Like, that's not easy. I know a lot of people that I could give freaking $100,000 to right now that will not be able to flip that will not be able to maintain that. They would blow it. So I think people need to understand that both sides are tough. Both sides are tough. And this is coming from somebody who comes from nothing. So both sides are definitely tough. I think that if you're born in a certain situation, that's not your fault. But if you stay in that situation, that is most definitely your fault. You're responsible for the outcome of your life and the continuation of your bloodline. You are definitely responsible for that. But where you are born in, you can't control that. You're not responsible for that. I think what separates a good hustler and a great hustler, and this is just everything breaker, whatever the case may be, is three things. And that would be patience, diligence, and vision. Those three things right there, man. If you don't have those, you can do things in life, but you're not going. I'm telling you right now, man, it's gonna be real hard if you're trying to be Elon Musk, or you're trying to be, to reference somebody in our scene, if you're trying to be a Moy, or you're trying to be I don't know, like a Thomas, or you're trying to be like Tyrone from IB. Like, these guys have built like businesses within breaking on something that wasn't even looked to as a profession, you know. And these guys have built, you know, a structure. They've built businesses that are lucrative, you know, that do impact our breaking scene on a bigger scale. It's not just an event. People look at it as just an event. Nah, this is a full-blown production. This is the ultra of breaking, you know. Like, people, I feel like they don't tend to see that, and I think that it just comes from those three qualities. You know, you gotta have a vision to be able to say, like, man, I'm gonna throw a festival and I'm gonna close down a whole city. Like, if somebody tells me that, one of my boys told me that, I'm looking like, all right, bro. Like, bro, you gotta have a vision, you know, and you gotta believe in it. And I'm pretty sure these guys have gone through their trials and their tribulations, and that comes with what I was saying, patience. You know, you gotta be patient. Let's look at Crossroadz, for example. Man, had Freestyle Session for years. I don't know what Freestyle Session it was exactly. Maybe you might know, but there was a Freestyle Session that they had a venue locked down in. This is probably like one of my favorite breaking stories. So shout out to Crossroadz. They had a venue locked down, and I think the day of, I might be wrong, but I think the day of, that venue actually canceled on them, and they had to rent out, I think it was like a boat or something, and they threw a freestyle session on a boat.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Best, dude, and it was like one of the best freestyle sessions ever. So that comes from being patient, you feel me? He could have easily just lost his mind and been like, what am I going to do? What's going to happen? I'm pretty sure him and his team, man, they just real patient, vision, and with their diligence, they pulled it off, and they still gave out an amazing event. You feel me? So I don't want to reference like other people, like, you know, outside of the scene, because I want people to know that we have these people within our scene, because we usually just see them as an Instagram profile, you know, and they're not. They're much bigger than that. So I think that those three things right there, man, separate everybody, even like a Storm. Look at Storm, man. Storm is like the Michael Jordan of breaking. Like, that dude to me is like the Michael Jordan of breaking, 100%. And he's built his own foundation. He's built his own business. He's doing it, you know? And I think those are the people we should be looking up to. We shouldn't be looking up to who got first place. Like, anybody can get first place, man. Breaking is such a forgiving game, man. It's such a forgiving game. Every weekend there's a new champion. Every weekend there is a new champion, because it's just somebody's day that day, you feel me? So I think we should look towards the people that are actually making it happen for the scene, not just taking from the scene. Mind you, it's coming from somebody who's very competitive. I love to compete, and I will compete until as much as I can. But I make sure that when I win, I give back. I win, I give back. When I won China, when I won all that money, the first thing I did, I came back and I announced a free Latin American tour for everybody. You know, so there has to be that give and take. It can't just take. You got to take and give, take and give, take and give. There has to be a balance. I'm very big on balance, man. Very, very big on it.
I agree. It's very important. And just being able to leverage that platform, right? So you're not just competing for yourself, but whenever you do win and you put in that work and you get the exposure for doing that work and you win, you take what you earned and you use that for hopefully the betterment of everybody, right? And it shows in who you see as these successful figures. And so I'm curious, because of these three qualities, they're really interesting and I feel like they're really well stated. So thank you for those. What is your vision? What is your long-term vision, if you have one, at the current moment?
Yeah, for me, I would say, you know, like my long-term vision, and I'm a very realistic person, man. Like the day I'm not here is I want people to look back and be like, man, he set the blueprint. You know, he set the blueprint for the generation that's coming up after me. As to, like I said on the Break Free competition, like I remember telling my mom, like, Mom, I'm gonna be a professional breakdancer. I'm gonna buy you. I told my mom these things. I told her. I was like 14 maybe. I didn't have nobody to show her to be like, look like this kid right here. Look, he's doing it. Look, he did this. I didn't have that. So I remember how hard it was for her to believe that, you know. Of course, she supported me, and like every other mom, you know, she was just looking out for my best interest. But for her to believe that, I don't blame her, man. I don't blame her, especially at that time. Mind you, jams were still only like $100 cash prizes at this time. This was like 2012, something like that. And I just want to be able to be that blueprint for those young kids that are coming up that want to do something with their passion. They don't feel like they have to go to school. You know, school's not for everybody. They feel like they don't have to do this career path that their parents are implementing on them, you know, like, you know, are implementing in them. I'm sorry. Like, this is what you have to do. This is where the money's at. And you have to work from your heart, not your pockets. Once you start working from the heart, man, there's no limit to the amount of money that you can make, you know? So I think that just being a blueprint of displaying passion, diligence, vision, and patience, like that right there for me is the recipe to long-term success. Not right now, you know. I think everybody wants the Gucci shoes right now. Everybody wants the Mercedes Benz right now. Everybody wants all that stuff now. But as fast as it comes is as fast as it goes. So if you build it slow and you learn the infrastructure inside out, man, there's no telling what you could do. There's no telling how much money you can make. There's no telling who you can impact, who you can reach. So I think patience, out of all those things right there, is the biggest one. We come from a very easy access generation. You know, everything is right here, dude. You can DM the president if you really wanted to. Like, it's crazy. We have easy access to everything and everybody. So it makes us very impatient, you know, makes us very, very impatient. So I think patience is a very big key to it. Very, very big key to it.
Thank you for that. I believe, and I agree with the whole point of patience. And that's something that is definitely harder for as the generations continue to have access to this speed. And so it's awesome that that's something that you've embodied. And I think we should be closing up soon. And there was a question I wanted to ask you that you already touched on a little bit. It was about building this community more as individuals. You kind of imparted this advice, and I feel like that's going to be very important for those listening to start to practice and be aware of and embody. But let's say if you had the opportunity to give a talk, and I believe you're familiar with this type of idea because I remember that you were intent on doing that when you were doing the tour. but having a section to be able to impart advice on people who wanted to somehow find a way to utilize their talents, their passions, and find a way to bring their own spice to the table. Yep. and create hopefully a sustainable business or some sort of something to help them continue giving to the community in their best way. What would you tell them?
Yeah, so that's definitely my biggest purpose doing what I do. It's because we don't have at least in Breakin, which I feel is what holds us back from our ultimate growth, is we don't have a connection with the actual artists, athletes. We don't have a connection. Some of you guys don't even know what these guys sound like. You don't even know what their voice sounds like. You don't even know. There's such a big disconnect, and it's because of this. Communication connects. That's just how it works. So I'm very vocal, and I don't mind. I don't mind expressing my failures, my success, my mistakes. I don't mind doing that, and I feel like that's what's going to inspire, whether it's this generation or the next generation, because they have somebody that they can relate to. When you can relate to somebody like, oh man, he made that mistake too. I mean, I thought I messed up. Like, no, man, you just got it, man. People think I'm like, at least like I know the younger generation, man. I get, bro, look at my phone, man. This is every day, bro. My phone every day is just blown up every day. I get DMs all the time. People like, oh man, you're such an inspiring entrepreneur. You're such an inspiring breaker. Man, I've made 100 mistakes. I've made 100 mistakes to this day. Today, I might make 100 mistakes. Like, I feel like people need to understand that it's okay, and me voicing that, people will understand, because some of these guys look up to these b-boys like they're gods, like if they're perfectionists, and they're not. Yo, they make mistakes every day. I'm here to tell y'all firsthand, as a world champion that has done what very few have done consistently, hold down a year of championships and beat the top best consistently without losing for a year. Dude, I made 100 mistakes doing that. 100 mistakes in training, in dieting, in everything. And it was just all about mistake, adjust. Mistake, adjust. Now, if you don't learn from these mistakes, then you're done. You're flatlined. You have to grab these mistakes and adjust. And if you can't, voice it so people can avoid these mistakes. And that's my biggest thing, I want to be able to be around when a breaker signs that $1 million contract, whether it be me or when I'm freaking, 8 years old, and that one kid signs that $1 million contract. I will feel like I did my part, because look at a LeBron James, look at a George Masvidal from UFC, or Conor McGregor. Like, these guys, the reason why they're so idolized is because you can relate to these guys, one way or another. And you hear their struggles and you hear their mistakes, and that's why people gravitate towards them. And I just think that's very important. So if I can sit, I don't mind. I love doing these, man. I could talk forever in these because we don't have enough of it. So if it's got to be me, if I got to take the time out of my day to do these, I will 100%, because I'm telling y'all right now, this is only going to have I hope it has 1 million views, but you're going to see, bro. I'm telling you right now, at the beginning, it's going to have 100 views, 200 views, something like that. Later on, man, this is going to be worth so much. That's why I applaud people like you who are taking the initiative now when people don't believe in it. Just like us, the reason why we do Breakin business is because we have that vision. We have that patience. We know that it's not valuable right now because people want to ignore it. But just give it a couple years. You're going to see how valuable this is.
I really thank you. And it means a lot coming from you to hear that. And I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. The idea that you need to, if you are transparent with your failures and you're willing to share that with people, that is not only going to allow them to relate more to you and be more comfortable in your presence, but it's also going to be a strength, because then you're fearless enough to the point where you aren't afraid of showing your mistakes. And that's just something that it's taken me and a lot of other people to learn as well, is being able to show those flaws and be transparent about it and share with others is what's going to allow people to not just see you as some sort of god that is unattainable and just an idol, but someone that they can really look up to and relate to and follow the pathway of. And so I admire you and thank you for sharing that.
Nah, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, the entire team that you got helping you build this. Like I said, man, this is definitely a beautiful thing, and it's gonna be worth a lot, man. Trust me. Just trust me.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're gonna continue moving forward on this together, and yeah, I can't wait to see where this goes. This is gonna be saved. It'll always be here, and we'll always have it to look back on. It's gonna be great. Before we close up, there's just a few guest questions that I wanted to ask you.
Oh, let's get it.
I think we have like one or two, yeah. And so yeah, let's get it. Let me.
Man, I wanted to post it. I wanted to freaking ask you some questions, but if I did, man, we'll just come back on somewhere.
Oh yeah, I would be delighted to have you on for round 2 at some point, Zeku. Thank you very much for being willing to do this.
Yeah.
We've got a question about breaking and training from Psych.ho, and he asks, I guess, so he asks, how does he train? Like, what's his practice session like? So breaking that question down, can you take us through the day in like maybe just an average work day for you? What does that look like?
An average work day, so
including training.
Yeah, so an average work day is not that stuff. I have my very like tough work days where, I mean, you've seen that I wake up at like 2 a.m, but that's like when it's like really, when I'm like full of work and, you know, I still have to get my training in. The reason why the schedule is so intense is because I have to get the training in. You get me? If I didn't have to get the training in, I'd probably be able to knock everything out easy, but the training is the core of everything for me. So an average day would be waking up maybe like around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and just knocking out like just easy work emails or phone calls that I have to make early in the morning. As of right now, everything is like super digital for me. So it's not a lot of physical appearances or anything like that. So everything's more like wake up in the morning, you know, do my emails, phone calls, whatever the case may be that I have to take care of like immediately. After that, I'll either go and have like a workout session, either at my gym or at home. From there, again, I'll have my break, and that's more building, whether it's, mind you, I have a couple of businesses, so I have to schedule them out, you know, whether if one business needs more attention that day, you know, after that workout session, I'll give my focus to that next business, whether it's content creating, having a meeting with the team, and all of my businesses, we have separate teams, you know, so I have to meet with this team, and whether it's through Zoom or whatever the case may be. After that portion of the day, I'll get into my training, and my training is my actual breaking training. That varies, you know, there'll be days where I listen to my body. So if I feel powerful, I'll practice my power. If I feel like, you know, just very into the music, I'll just bug out, practice my style, my creative flows. I have days where I just drill. I'll just go to practice, do 50 air flares, 50 flares, 50 swipes, 50 halo 90s. Like I just completely drill like my arsenal. And then I have days where I feel very weak, and I'm very big on training the mind. So if my body's feeling weak, I'm going to train power too. I'll be like, all right, well, there's going to be a day in the finals I'm going to be tired. I need to learn how to pull this off when I'm tired. So my breaking training is structured around how I feel during battles and how can I improve, you know? So that's where my stamina comes from. There's training days where I battle everybody inside my gym, at least 5 people, like 10, 15 rounds nonstop. So 10, 15 rounds with somebody, drink a little bit of water, 10, 15 rounds with the next. So what I love about what I do is that there's not like a perfect structure. You know, I have that freedom where I can sometimes weight train at 5 in the morning. I can weight train at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just how my body feels. And I think that's what makes my mind so powerful, is that when I don't feel controlled and I feel free to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. But that takes a lot of discipline, because when you have time on your hands, you can make some bad decisions, or you can just be like, oh, I'll train tomorrow. Or I could, you know, I'll finish this rep next practice, or I'll finish creating this move next practice, you know. So I think just discipline plays a really big role in it. And after that training session, I'll probably just go home, eat. I'll probably watch some interviews. I'm very big on like learning and educating myself. So I'll watch interviews, I'll read a book, I'll finish up some work, and that'll probably be like my day. You know, of course, this is like a summary. You know, I sprinkle time in for family and food, of course, and all that stuff. But that's like somewhat of a summary.
Right. So does that mean you don't, it's not so much that you plan like a day or a week beforehand, but more of like the heat of the beginning of practice and like, where am I at right now? And that from there, you kind of diagnose where you're going to go for that practice
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah, yeah,
It's almost a call to the approach of breaking for a lot of people, where a lot of it is a lot of it is rehearsed beforehand, but at the same time, there's still that freestyle aspect that needs to be maintained. And so that's
That's my
really interesting.
that's legit my life. That is legit my life. Like I have somewhat of a plan, going into the week, somewhat, but it never goes. I'm that type of person. Like, oh, that meeting's not happening at 4:30. Like, damn, like it's more like, oh, the meeting got moved to 6 o'clock. Okay, cool. All right, guys, let's move this to 4 now, and let's do this. So that's the whole point of adjusting, and adapting. It's really, really big, because
Definitely.
every day's gonna switch up on you. Every day switches up on you. So
Right.
I think it's just having somewhat of a structure, knowing what you're gonna do, but be ready because it could switch up. Not on your end, but somebody else's end. So that's normal. It happens.
Definitely. That stamina training also definitely paid off at BIS. So that's
Yeah.
okay. Last question from a guest is from LOHJIE1. Do you ever get burnout from practicing, and how do you get through it? So how do you deal with burnout?
Yeah. So I've had a bunch of burnouts, man. A bunch, and it's weird because I love to break, bro. I love breaking. I love breaking, dude.
Like you love literally like breaking down.
No.
Or you
I
love
love
dancing.
breaking the dance.
Okay.
Yeah, I love breaking, so it's really weird when I have a burnout because I'm like, I love to do this. This is so weird. Why do I not feel like breaking right now? And I think it just comes from, man, I've been training 2-3 times a day for about like maybe 6 years, something like that, like forever. So I understand where like my mind, like I do MMA as well. And I see where like when I do MMA and I haven't done it in like months, I'm like, oh man, this is so much fun. Like this is what I want to do right now. And breaking is just not doing it for me, And then I'll learn to find a way to love it again. And one of the ways that I do that is by looking back to pictures of that 10, 11-year-old kid that wanted to break, that was doing all this nonsense and just wanted to take on the world, And I have a picture on my Instagram. I'm like posted up by some boomboxes, and I was wearing a shirt that was gifted to me and a pair of jeans and some shoes that I had stolen.
Right. I remember seeing that.
And that picture right there, man, it motivates me a lot because I remember that kid just wanted to break every day and take over the world, So when I do feel like that, I will try and do other things. Like, I'll do a little bit of MMA. I'll play some video games. I'll try and like disconnect from breaking. But when I see memories like that, man, it's just like, I know why I started, and it instantly ignites that fire again. So you're going to experience burnouts 100%. You'll experience it multiple times in a week. It's happened to me. But you got to look to why you started. And that if it's a big why, it'll most definitely ignite that fire again for sure.
Going back to the roots. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Zeku, this has been an absolute pleasure. And this last close is going to just be some final words you'd like to impart, if you have any. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
I would say just don't listen to just hear, listen to understand. Go back, scroll back on these interviews, dig deeper into these guys that you look up to, and learn about them. Learn about them. Manifest what you want to do. If you can't see it, nobody can see it. And man, just continue to do what you do. You're gonna run into 100 problems a day, and it's gonna be a lot easier to just give up. So if you can just stick to the path that you're on, do it, man. There's no better feeling than accomplishing what you set your mind out to do every day, man. Even if it's just setting 3 things you're gonna do a day. I'm gonna make my bed. I'm gonna walk my dog, and I'm going to wash my car. When you do those 3 things and you accomplish it, you just feel different. It's a sense of confidence that it gives you, So just whatever you set your mind to, man, get it done. You might end up not being able to finish it because of life, but at least you won't be considered a quitter, man. And that's really big. So just word is bond. Stick to what you're going to do. Stick to what you say and make it happen, man. Code is everything.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That was great. That's very good actionable advice. All right, Zeku.
Hey, man, thank you for everything, bro. It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for giving me this platform to be able to speak and reach people. So I appreciate it, bro. For real, thank you.
It's mutual, man. Thank you for sharing and taking the time to do this. So,
for sure, my brother.
Yeah, have a good day, everybody. It's Kai and Zeku on the Crossroads, signing out.
Peace.
What's up, you guys? It's Kai. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Crossroads. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at The Crossroads, Z_. That is where we will keep you updated with new episodes and great and educational content throughout your day. Lastly, if you really enjoyed this episode and it's got you thinking, don't forget to tell a friend about it and converse about the topics that we talked about in this episode. The point is to grow as a community and as individuals, as creators. So continuing to allow this type of information to circulate throughout your daily life will help a lot in reinforcing it. That's all I have to say, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Peace.